Captain's Log, Episode 16. This week's episode of the Beer Vengers podcast is sponsored by Astoria Beer and Cheese Ditmars. Located at 3511 Ditmars Boulevard in Astoria, Queens, now featuring for an increasingly limited time, the 2020 Goose Island Bourbon County brand stouts. They've still got some. During my recent visit, Ryan sent me home with a Ghostfish gluten-free Watchstander Stout, Collective Arts Stranger Than Chocolate and Coconut Porter, and St. Ambrose Grateful Head Mead. Enjoy their eclectic array of craft beer, artisanal cheeses, and specialty grocery items. Astoria Beer and Cheese Ditmars, home bar to yours truly, Captain Porter Brown Stout. Suit up for today's show, featuring 6 unique pours and, no, don't check your calendars, it's not St. Patrick's Day yet. But we just couldn't wait until March 17th to introduce you to this week's guest beer venger, Irish Red. Learn about her origin story, the unique joys and challenges of beer venturing in Massachusetts, how we're all struggling to reclaim the color orange, and much, much more. And now, without further ado, please enjoy episode 16, The Luck of the Irish Red.
With a Beer Vengers, Beer Vengers, Beer Vengers.
We're the Beer Vengers.
Welcome to the Beercast, everyone. Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Astoria, Queens, I am Captain Porter Brown Stout.
And coming to you from an undisclosed location in Manhattan Town, New York City, I am the Pale Male Hophead Huck.
And coming to you special from an undisclosed location in the county of Nassau, it is I, the Beer Wonder.
And I am coming from my secret lair here on Cape Cod.
Who are you?
I'm Irish Red.
Aha!
Excellent. And we are
The
Beer Vengers.
That's right. We are the Beer Vengers, everyone. We're very much still working on our unison skills, but I think we're growing and shaping and changing every day. So glad you're listening. As you noticed, we have a wonderful new guest Beer Venger with us today. Welcome, Irish Red.
Thank you very much.
Top
Very
of the
excited
evening
be
to
here.
you. Sorry.
Top of the evening. All right. I'm not actually. We're not going to go into any of the stereotypes there. I'm sure they'll come up over the course of the show. So we have a wonderful guest, Beer Venger Irish Red. We're going to get to know a little bit more about her and her beginning tale. I think it goes by another name, but we'll get to that when we. I didn't want to say it because I didn't want to spark the theme and make you think it was actually starting. And we're going to talk about. We haven't decided yet. Either we're going to start with Massachusetts beers. We might even move on to a whole theme of New England beers in general, and lots of other fun stuff. But before we do that, I think it's time that. I think we need to get to the pours.
I think we do.
Let's get to the
I
pours.
agree.
Okay,
Notice the glass.
Wow. Oh.
Irish Red has a glass already, so.
A Guinness glass seems appropriate.
I think she wants to go first. What do you think, Beer Wonder?
I don't know. I mean, I was considering it, and I figured it would only be polite, right?
Yes.
It would be polite. You're right. It should have been obvious. So glad you were able to come here today.
That's what I do. Keep the propriety going. Irish
What would we
Red.
do without you?
Let's see it.
What do you got?
What do you have there, Irish Red?
So this is a new beer to me anyways.
Oh my.
Called Framework. I don't know, you guys don't have it in reverse like me, but and it caught my eye because I noticed the logo at the top said Midcape, which is a local lumber or home goods builder supply company
Okay.
here on the
didn't know
Cape.
that.
And I thought, they're making beer now? Like, what the hell is that? So then I looked more closely, and it's Shoveltown,
Aha.
which I've enjoyed many a Shoveltown, and they're out of northeastern Massachusetts, not to be confused with Northeastham, which is on the Cape.
Easton is closer to Boston, yeah.
Now, is it strictly
Easton-
Shoveltown, or is it a collaboration of some sort?
Well, it's a collaboration with the the lumber
The
store,
lumber store.
I guess.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see.
And
They
my
provided
husband is also a framer. He's a construction framer.
Mhm.
So I thought, well, it says Mid Cape, right? I just had never seen a collaboration with a home builder construction company before. So
That's
I don't
very
know if
true. You
there's
see a lot
wood
of coffee
shaving
companies.
in
I hope it has
there.
woody notes.
Yeah, that's, I don't
Better.
know what kind of flavors are going to be in there, but yeah. So that's what I've got. So should I just go ahead and pour it then?
Crack it open.
Absolutely.
Crack it
If
open,
you want
yeah.
to see that.
Hear the
If you want to
sound?
see that.
Oh,
It's a sound we all love to hear.
Let's see that pour. Yeah. Hold her up for us.
a little higher, please. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Nice golden color. Oh, it's almost a darker gold. It's got sort of like an orangey feel to it, at least the way I'm seeing it.
Is that I missed on what the style of that was? It a pale ale?
I think it's a New England IPA.
It's a
That-
New England,
That looks
New
like
England
what,
IPA, and it's a 6.3 ABV.
Very
Ooh.
good.
So
well done.
I did not expect to come across this when I was in my local today. But here's my.
That's a beautiful pour.
That
Lovely,
is.
like nice
a
aggressive head there.
It's pretty translucent. I don't know if the lighting is good here, but it's
You can't see you through it.
it's more translucent than I expected. You know, it's darker than like a Budweiser, but it's not a super juicy hazy.
Not full on
Sort of
hazy.
somewhere in between.
Well, let's see what else we got going. Today I want to do a beer, and today I'm doing a sponsored pour today.
It's a sponsored pour?
Sponsored pour
Sponsored pour.
from our friends at Astoria Beer and Cheese Ditmars. This is from Crooked Stave Brewing it's in Denver, Colorado, called
Nice.
Drip Line. This
Ooh,
is
that's
a
beautiful.
coffee stout, and what's
I like the
really
can
neat
art.
about this is that it's brewed as a collaboration with a coffee maker called Huckleberry Coffee, and it says Huck right on the side of the can.
Oh, how perfect is that?
It's perfectly
made for
made
you.
for me. Yeah. All right, so
What?
let's crack her open. Oh,
Oh.
splashy.
That was a good sound.
Yeah, it's coming out of the can there. It was good on the foam. Tasted good right there. So,
Fantastic.
all right, let's take a look at this.
Oh, beautifully dark there. Yeah,
Mhm.
really. And it looks like it's pouring pretty thick too, which is nice.
Yeah, it's
Nice
a nice.
white head there.
It's not like Imperial. It's about 6.3, I think.
Okay.
And yeah, getting that coffee nose, very good. All right.
Wonderful. What do you got there, Beer Wonder?
Well, so even though I have retreated to a different county for the week to make sure that I'm taking care of Beer Venger important tasks out here, I didn't want to leave New York City entirely, and so I do have another beer from my home secret undisclosed location in Queens from our friends at Keg and Lantern. This is called the Lorelei Lager, which is
Aha.
summer lager. So living that lager life, a la Hophead Huck for a second.
More crispy chips.
It's got a nice. This one I'm very excited about because it is a very traditional lager, but it has a specific hop characteristic to it that I'm really excited about. It uses the Tardif hops for some nice aroma on that one.
What was the hop called again?
Tardif? Tardif. Yes,
That's a new one on me.
They are French.
Well, oui.
Specifically from a region known as Alsace, which I know the captain may have some familiarity with.
I've spent a little time there, yeah.
Yep. And you can see it's got that gorgeous straw color to it right
yeah.
here.
Oh, yeah.
Really just sort of beautiful,
Looks good.
nice creamy head on top. I'm very excited. And bringing a little bit of summer in the depths of winter.
Yes.
I've had
Yeah,
very
we
few
could
Keg
use
Lantern
some,
beers. We gotta get out there sometime and try some.
They're great. I've actually spent some, I'll talk about this later, but I've spent some time brewing with their head brewer. which is a
Oh,
lot of
very
fun.
good. We'll let you hear about that. Captain?
Well, my beer is technically not a,
Sponsored pour.
but I did get it from Astoria Beer and Cheese. I was there last Saturday, and Sarah came from right around the counter to show me all the new stouts they had in. And this is one from a brewery I was completely unfamiliar with, but it's called Free Thought.
Ooh.
They're contract brewers, work out of Brooklyn. This is distributed by 12%. And let me make sure I have the name of this right because they've got all their names. It's It's called a sastrugi. Sastrugi.
Sastrugi.
I looked this up. What that technically is, it's like in those very like Arctic climates where you have the hard packed snow, but the wind is just really brutal, and it makes those sort of like weird little like shapes in the snow. That's called sastrugi, and you can sort of see it a little bit
Wow.
on the can. I think it's
Yeah.
reflected there in the can art. And this, we didn't plan this ahead of time. This is also a collaboration with Brooklyn-based coffee, Grady's Cold Brew.
Whoa.
There you go.
A lot
It is
of collabs
it's a,
happening.
it is an
Collab
imperial milk stout with the. Oh no! See, they've got the.
I have it here. If you, it's
It's got. Oh, here we go. Yeah, with coffee and chicory, and I
Chicory.
had this the other day, and I had to go out today and pick up some more of it because it's so good. So here we are.
all right. Ooh,
Oh,
pouring my
I know that-
motor oil.
yeah, absolutely. Nice slow pour too, which is great. Deep, rich color, nice brown head that's developing more than I actually would anticipate for a beer like this one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there
What's-
we go.
What is the percentage on this one?
It's a
Captain?
10.
It's
10.
10.
Okay. Wow. All right. That's a lot of good. For a beer with that high alcohol. I'm a little excited to hear about how it's tasting.
All right.
Right.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Taste these fantastic beers.
Indeed.
Mm.
Well, I know that Crooked Stave is known for their sours.
hmm
They're great. They do really nice sours. This actually puts me in the mind of a sour almost, and almost like that Belgian stout we talked about from Wild East.
hmm
Yeah, it's got a
Yeah.
little more of a Belgian-y feel. Unfortunately, I'm not getting as much coffee as I want. Decaf
Oh.
Stan needs more coffee. That's my other name.
This is a little Yoda-ish to say, but the coffee is strong in this one.
Oh, you see.
Oh,
Let's switch
just straight through the screen.
to this. Oh, wait, the people at home
The
can't see
sound
that.
waves,
Never
I
mind.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
No,
Anyway.
I actually wound up buying a couple of those ones because when Ryan gave me those as our sponsored, I'm not going to do it again. When Brian gave us that one as part of our sponsorship package, I knew I was saving that one for you, so I went back the next time and I bought some for myself. I enjoyed that one.
can't
Excellent.
believe it says Huck on the can.
Yeah, isn't that great?
It's
That's-
because it's Huckleberry Roasters.
Huckleberry Roasters, yeah.
So
That's
cool.
almost as surprising as seeing a beer with the lumber place's name on the can.
I've been looking for this on Instagram. I haven't found it. I haven't had any Shoveltown. So how is this
You
lumber
haven't
yard?
had any Shoveltown?
Yes.
I really like Shoveltown. It's a good shelfie for me. I'm in Massachusetts, but I'm over an hour from Boston or Providence. So and we're kind of a summer seasonal type of place. So we don't get as much stock on the shelves in the off season as we do in the summertime. So you really got to do some hunting. And but Shoveltown is pretty consistent as far as being able to find it on the Cape. It's good. It's very smooth. So I was saying that it's not as
Okay.
thick as those really juicy ones. It's almost like if you compared like pulpy orange juice to tangerine juice. It's still kind of fruity and everything, but it's
I like
just
that metaphor.
It's like thinner, I guess.
Is it maybe like a little less hoppy, like more like a double IPA?
Like it tastes, it's a little double IPA, and then sort of right at the end, the finish has got more of a, like thick kind of vibe to it. But I love this.
Hop
This
thing,
is
like-
something that I love to see.
Oh, the
It's,
lacing.
yeah.
Yes. So beautiful.
That's good.
Yeah,
you have a
so
nice
that-
clean glass there, Red.
That always makes me happy to see that. But yeah, no, it's good. And the trouble with the smooth beers, I don't know if you guys have this problem, is you just drink it right down and then.
Don't I know what I regret?
So sometimes one of the things I like about the really thick, beers is that it makes you take your time and take it slow. So, but whatever. These are crazy times. So
Yeah, I've said before that I always really respect a low ABV beer that has a high flavor profile, and I also really appreciate a high ABV beer that is a little more easy drinking, because that's real artistry. That's sort of like going against the grain of what, like, you expect the low ABV to be watery, the high ABV to be boozy, but if someone is really attentive to flavor and can pull it out of it even despite the ABV, that's my hat is always off to those.
Well, I gotta say, for a very traditional lager, which is what this Lorelei is, I mean, it's exactly what you want. But oh my goodness, so the Tardif hops are from Alsace, France, which I know the captain has had some experience with. But it has this wonderful grassy quality. So when you smell it, you just feel like you're in this beautiful, like glorious, magical field. It does nothing to affect the flavor, but the initial aroma, the big sniff that happens at the beginning, is just this feeling of summer and magic. And while I am freezing myself to death here, it's just nice to have a little reminder of that. And also, I feel you, Irish Red. This is a little over 6%, but it's I think I'm almost halfway done.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But Keg and Lantern is a very cool place. They're in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, for those of you who are in our Gotham area. And they started as sort of this like old Polish bar when Greenpoint was a really heavily Polish area. And so they moved their brewery into the basement. And it's a really tiny little system. So I was a little surprised to see them distributing, because I have not seen much of their stuff. Usually you just have to go there to get their beers. But they do a lot of traditional, kind of interesting, cool stuff. And their head brewer, I forget where he came from. I think he was from Fifth Hammer, although don't quote me on that one. Has continued to do very kind of interesting things. And I had the pleasure of getting a chance to brew a California Common with him once in this tiny little basement area where all their brewing equipment is. So much so that when you go into their beautiful outdoor backyard area, which I believe we've all had beers in, there's like a little secret passageway that you go down, and you have to put your hand above it or you'll smack your forehead on the brick. And then on the way back out, you can also potentially smack your forehead on the way out. So it's kind of like this little underground layer that is cobbled together to brew all of this stuff. So
Where in Greenpoint is it? What?
It's right by the Greenpoint stop on the G train. I believe it's on Nassau Street.
Irish Red used to live in Greenpoint.
Oh, really?
Last summer when I was biking to all the breweries, I was thinking about, you know, that bridge there, whatever the bridge there that goes between Queens and Brooklyn. It's like, I remember it's one of those ones that seemed to be like it was right off the bridge. Mm-hmm. And because I never quite made it to those breweries, but it's one of the ones I was considering going to.
Yep. It's right off of the Nassau stop on the G train, for those of you who might be traveling via trains in this unique time. Yeah. But it is right on Nassau Avenue. Let me see if I can get a little bit more specific detail, thanks to our friend Google.
Yeah, I used to live
it's
on the Williamsburg Greenpoint line, and back when it was more Polish people than not. I'm going to be dating myself.
Yep, it just blocks from McCarran.
Now you live in a place, Red, that has a lot of bridges, right? So we talked about this last week, and you mentioned it just now that it's hard to get stuff down where you are, even though you're 40, 50 miles from Boston. Because of these bridges. Right. It's almost.
I would say the New York equivalent would be like the Hamptons. So, you know, super busy, crazy in the summer, and then, you know, very turned back into quiet villages in the winter. Although, because of COVID, we've had a lot of New Yorkers deciding to just come to their summer home or their parents' summer home and just plant it here until, you know, they can go back to work and that kind of thing. So we have had a slight uptick in the population.
That's a very specific type of New Yorker.
I've been trying to get research on your beer, and it is a collaboration with Mid Cape Home, and it's called Framework, just like your husband's work. It's built for your boy.
I know, it's so funny.
You know, a couple weeks ago there was a beer geek on Jeopardy, and she chose to for the very nice, yeah. And she was talking about, you know, in those interview segments that are so quick. It was one of Alex Trebek's last shows. But that's what she'd wanted to talk about, this, how she'd actually studied craft beer. And she said one of her favorite things was the weird terms that people would have for flavor descriptors. Like specifically like, so it has that sort of forest floor. And the one that I hadn't heard before, so I had to look it up, is horse blanket.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
You haven't come across that one before?
In wine, they talk about a horse, notes of horsehair. So I wonder if that sort of carried over from the wine people to sort of, that's the beer version of it. Because when people talk about wine, I remember going to like somebody's birthday party, a wine tasting, and them saying, notes of horsehair. And I kind of was like, oh, horsehair, that doesn't sound good. But so I wonder if that's one of those things that's the beer translation.
Probably. Yeah, I think it also has something to do with like that. It's like maybe you do with farmhouse ales. It's like it has that very like barnyard type quality.
Yeah. Well, if you spend any time in a barn, that's kind of a turnoff to me. That doesn't make me want to have a glass. Although when I was in barns, I was drinking Bartles and James, I think, wine coolers back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
When you're doing farm work, you got to have some Bartles and James nearby.
You need nothing like a nice crisp Bartles and James on a hot day in the barn. Yeah. But yeah, I was thinking of you, Huck, because earlier in the week I was talking to Huck about how it's hard to get a hold of any good beers, and I've just been striking out lately. And then because I knew I was going to be doing the podcast, I ventured back out into the world, and I got an alert on my phone from Huck. You're familiar with Ring Brothers? It's a little
great store, great chowder.
Great chowder. This little grocery store that has like a conglomerate of like a liquor store and a butcher and different things. And they had Hetty Topper in-house, 1 4-pack per. And I was like, oh, so I dispatched my husband, the framer, to go pick some up. And it's my first 4-pack that's from 2021. So all the other beers in my fridge are from 2020 still. So I thought about having that tonight, but I wanted to stick to something more local. So that was lucky. And then the Mid Cape, that was a surprise. That was lucky. And then the other one I got, if we go for a second later, is this one from, even you can't get more local for me, is Devil's Purse.
Huck was mentioning that in our year-end stuff about some of the best ones
Yeah, I was
around.
saying that the Kolsch is my standard when I go to the Cape.
Yeah, they're known for their Kolsch, and they did have in the store a 12-pack, and you get the free glass, and I'm kind of a sucker for that. And I was like, but then I thought, what am I going to do with 12 Kolsch in January without Huck or anybody coming to visit me?
You don't want that much
Kolsch.
Kolsch.
I could give it to my teenagers. I guess they might want it, but.
Well, that's something Huck struggles with all the time. Every week I feel it comes up like I have so much beer and I'm the only one in the house drinking it. Since Cider Girl, obviously by her name, is not going to be drinking that stuff. But talking about all these places, I think is a great segue into since you are in Massachusetts and you're on top of these ones, and Huck has been telling us just about Massachusetts beers in general, because there are a few that I like a lot, but there are some that never even make it over the border. They make it to like some of the New England borders, but they never make it here. Like I love Jack's Abbey.
Jack's Abbey you can get here, yeah.
In fact, over the holidays, I had a really great gingerbread Framingham.
I see Exhibit A sometimes here, another Framingham beer. What else?
Right. Well, even the one
New York.
Even the one I had last week from Night Shift.
Night
from
Shift
Everett
down here, yeah.
was a really good one. But
Lamplighter we see sometimes.
Yeah, Lamplight. I think I had an IPA from them at Astoria Beer and Cheese a few weeks back. They had one of their
Lord Hobo. You can get Lord Hobo here.
What's that?
Can you get Devil's Purse in New York?
I haven't seen it. Have you seen it, Huck?
Which is it?
I was in
Devil's
Connecticut
Purse.
one time, and
No.
I think where in Connecticut, near Mystic, somewhere in Connecticut, and they had. I was surprised to see that they had Devil's Purse, so it just made me wonder about their distribution. As far as Cape Cod breweries, they I think built that into their business plan more than some of the other. You know, there's so many great breweries, but some of them are just doing it for like, you know, they're more artists than they are business people, you know. And I think
Yeah,
Devil's
right.
Purse had a good combination of it's two guys started it, and they had a real business plan. Like distribution was part of the original plan, so they quickly had their stuff canned and in stores. Compared to there's still some here on the Cape that you can only get them at the brewery or will only distribute as far as, you know, their little truck will drive. So it's interesting to
Well,
see.
I'm as someone who's never spent any time in your neck of the woods, but certainly heard a decent amount about it from, you know, Puck and others. What are some of those smaller breweries that might be worth highlighting? Are there sort of little guys that are more that sort of artist than business person that you're talking about?
Well, we've got like there's Barnstable Brewing is one that's a little guy on the Cape, and you know they've got a selection that they usually will only have about 5 going at once compared to some of these, you know, really longer lists that you see. And the OG brewer on the Cape is Cape Cod Beer, and they've been around.
Yeah, they're going on 12, 13 years, right? Something like that.
Probably even I think longer than that, because
Longer.
before we got married, they were up and running. So that's
Wow.
20. I just keep aging myself on this podcast, but they were, you know, they're very community minded, and they were all about the growlers. And you guys remember the growler days when it was you either got it on tap or you got a growler. Those, you know, people weren't canning. That took a while for that
Right.
to start happening. So I used to get their growlers all the time. And that was another case of like, I've got this giant bottle of beer to drink by myself, you know. So
And you would have a garage full of growlers.
Knockabout is another one. You know, Huck might know better than me how far Knockabout distributes. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they stay in Massachusetts as well, and I think they're mostly Cape, but they do put out a lot. They put out, like you said, Barnstable has like 4 out at a time. Knockabout has like 20 out at a time, and they're doing a lot of canning.
Yeah, it's really
out of Falmouth,
fascinating
right?
to see. Yeah, and then there's what's the one in Brewster?
Oh yeah, it's Hog River. That's in Orleans.
Hog Island.
Hog Island.
Hog Island.
It's not a
Hog
river; it's an
Island,
island.
that's another great one. But they also seem to be more about
you're
their
getting one of
location.
Yeah,
Oh, and
Glenn and I were
Treehouse
about to
is
say the
coming
same
to the
thing.
Cape.
Yeah, we were. What about Treehouse?
Yeah, but so here's the thing. I know everybody got really excited to see that Treehouse, which is in the central, almost western part of Massachusetts, is going to have a place here on the Cape, just over the bridge for anybody who's been here in Sandwich. But I've been living here for over 20 years, and the wheels of progress move very slow. So I would be shocked to see it. I mean, you never know, but you got to go through the historic district.
They're saying that they'll be ready this summer.
You know. I mean, they're saying they're going to be ready this summer. The only thing that makes me think that maybe they will is because everything is so, you know, ground to a halt these days that maybe they can make it happen. So it's going to be a boost to the local economy. So, but I'd be thrilled. Yeah. Because I haven't had a Treehouse. I can't even remember when, because I just would need somebody who went to the brewery to say, hey, Maura,
Right.
I went to the brewery. Yeah. And, you know, people aren't traveling as much.
My brother-in-law goes sometimes.
Yeah, he'll pile
I don't think we mentioned
4 kids in the car and drive there.
We're actually related to Irish Red and myself.
Well, it's interesting.
also
Last
an
week we
Irish
had
Red.
someone from my childhood, and this week we have someone from your childhood.
Indeed. We are, in fact, brother and sister.
I was thinking
And
about
we
how
have
our
a
dad is
mutual
named.
brother-in-law who's a beer freak.
Oh, right. He's our he's
Oh, so
sort
when
of
you were
the
referring to your brother-in-law, you weren't referring to that brother-in-law.
Right. Well,
not the framework.
our brother-in-law, my sister's husband, is he's like a real like super snob. Like he's aggressive about it, and
Yeah.
he loves just other half, Trillium, Vitamin C, Treehouse, maybe Foam. That's it. And then he complains about those. He's been texting me this the past couple of days, telling me that these other half beers in Rochester are not up to snuff.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. In fact, when I met him, I think that was the first time I was ever introduced to the term. It's more common now. The first time I ever heard the term hazehead.
Hazehead. He is a hazehead.
I've heard hophead for a while,
he
but
is
he's
a
more of a
hazehead.
hazehead.
He's definitely a hazehead.
And I
I
think
feel
that might
like
solve his problems if he would
change all
just
the time.
try other styles.
Well, like, I don't know if it's because we're related, but because Huck has all those alternate personalities, I feel kind of the same. Like I'll go through phases where all I want is the super thick hazy, and then I get kind of tired of it after a while, and then I'm like, oh, let's have some fun seasonal ones because it's November, and then in the winter when it's really cold, I'm like, I want a nice thick stout, just I don't know. I think I change with the seasons, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know me, I've been living the lager life, and I'm going to continue that
Seasonal
now.
snob.
I have another pour
Second
for us.
beer.
Yeah,
Oh,
we can't.
great.
We can't. I don't know any Massachusetts beer. I do, but I'm cellaring it, and so I have the next best thing: New Hampshire beer. This is Schilling Brewing Company, the Keller Pills. It's an unfiltered
Oh,
pilsner.
great.
Yeah, it's a real good one.
Oh, unfiltered.
Good crack on that one. Oh, and in a small glass too, representing the
In a
pony
pony
bar.
glass.
Yes, so
This-
clear. This
It's one of my
looks
favorite
like-
beer glasses. Yeah, I do like it.
yeah, it's got a great clarity to it. I can see straight through it. Ah, that looks beautiful.
Just say pony. Oh, it says it on both sides. Okay,
What
yeah.
is not only is it a glass from the pony bar, it's what is referred to as a pony glass.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the whole. Oh, that's beautiful.
Nice.
Because the whole
Excellent.
story about it's a small glass, and the idea that if you go to a racetrack, they'd have these small beers so you could drink them quickly and get back out and see to your bets. That's how the pony bar got its name.
Oh, did not know
And
that.
so, yeah,
Oh,
that's what they named it
never
after, and
knew
so
why
that
it
is a
was
pony
called
glass.
I thought it was named for the
small
pony
and cute.
cake.
I could swear I read early on that was when we have Dan on, we'll clarify all of that.
Clarify.
All right. Well, I think now that Huck is settling into his second pour, I think it must be time for the what do you call it?
Origin story.
That's right. I think it's time for Irish Red's origin story. I think we've got little dribs and drabs of it already, but I think we need to start go a little further back to get the full picture.
Yeah, I've given a lot
how
of
did you get
clues
started in
away.
beer, Irish Red?
Well, we mentioned that Huck and I are related, and I was thinking about how our mother calls our dad Michelob, and I thought, well, there you go. That's the start of it right there. So, as a kid, if you were willing to get up and go to the fridge and get dad a beer, you got to have a sip. So that was like
Ooh.
the rule. So that was like your reward for going, and getting the beer. And so I think that's where I really got my original first taste for beer. And then I noticed that my mom didn't drink beer, but all of my cool aunts did. And so I was like, yeah, why can't girls drink beer? I kind of had an attitude, so I was determined
Fair.
to
Fair.
drink beer. And then, then in high school, I think I mentioned in the barn there, I was drinking the Bartles and James like everybody else. But also in high school, I used to work at Friendly's restaurants, very New England
Mm.
chain, and I
We
saved
have them
my.
in the Midwest also. That was where we'd always go. Yeah.
It's such a teenage haven. So I saved my pennies and quarters and dollars and tips and enough money so that I could go to Ireland when I graduated from high school. And so I was 18 years old, and I somehow convinced my friend, and probably more importantly, my friend's mother, to let her come with me because she was only 17. and more dating myself by saying that an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old just like got on a plane and went to Ireland with no plan really or anything. And when we first got there, we went into a pub and we were kind of nervous because we'd never been able to order alcohol, and we were young looking too, especially me. So there's no way I was passing as a 21-year-old. So we ordered Heineken at first, and it was really funny because it tasted exactly like the skunk Heinekens that I had, at home. And then I've never had a not skunk Heineken, I don't think. And then we decided to be brave, and we switched it up to Guinness, which we both loved immediately. And we traveled around the country, and so the next stop we were in Limerick when we first got there, and then we went to Dublin, and we found this pub on St. Stephen's Green called O'Donogho's, which some people are familiar with. And it was just your classic Irish pub, like a front and a back, and people were buying rounds of drinks, and it was almost like a competition, which I really wasn't ready for. That wasn't sort of the American way, from my point of teenage way of volunteering to pay for drinks. And so we were all buying each other rounds of drinks. And at some point I had a Smithwick's, which is an Irish ale. And as I was saying before, the Guinness, I love the Guinness, but it was like drinking a bowl of soup, like it's thick. But the Smithwick's was smooth, like so smooth. And that just became my beer for the rest of the trip.
Yeah, that's right.
Then
I remember that.
Then I come back to the States, and now I'm ruined for beer because it's, it's the late 80s. There's not a lot of options other than imports. So if you went to an actual Irish pub, sometimes they'd have Guinness on tap. That was before they had that Canadian distribution. I think they had to actually import it. And then I went to college and, drank the cheap beer and everything. But I quickly learned that
I am a little curious. So when you having been to Ireland and tasting and occasionally finding Guinness, did you notice right away it wasn't the same thing you had over there?
Oh yeah, especially if you got it, because some place you go and they wouldn't have it on tap, but they'd have a can.
Yeah,
and it was like came out a little bit looking like maple syrup and motor oil mixed together, and it just tasted terrible. Like it was on a boat for a long time or something. I don't know. It was not good. But I couldn't really afford to be living that lifestyle anyways. And I still wasn't 21 yet. So I couldn't go to bars. Yeah. So, and in college, I switched things up to save money. And I would drink Boone's Farm wine in college. Because it was $2 a bottle, and I didn't have to share it with anyone. And I didn't have to go in on a case with my guy friends who would drink most of the beer, and I'd have like one beer. So fortunately, when I graduated college, the timing was pretty good that Sam Adams had become pretty established in Boston. So I was, and I by then was 21, and that was my go-to beer at bars. And then I moved to New York, and that was right around when they started having distribution in New York. So that was lucky for me. It wasn't everywhere though, so I'd get imports usually if I couldn't do that. And then while I was living in Williamsburg, Brooklyn Beer came about. That was also good timing. And you
got that lager timing.
Yeah, and then Huck and I were raised to always support the locals. Like we would have like a plumber come to the house who, even if he wasn't that good of a plumber, but he was like our neighbor. So he, that was kind of how we were raised. So I was like, oh, Brooklyn beer. I gotta Brooklyn lager. I gotta drink that because I'm living in Brooklyn. And, ever since then, I feel really fortunate that, the older I got, the more I, could afford it. The beer's just getting better and better. And then probably in my 30s or so, after my kids were born, I just wasn't like pounding beers anymore. So if I was going to spend money and take the time to have beer, I wanted it to be like the highest quality beer that I can get my hands on. And so that's sort of been my go-to the past few years. I just really look for, I'm willing to spend the money and get like just a really high quality beer. So I feel lucky.
Yeah, you
like
guys
it's
got
almost like timing-wise, it's
Trilivery,
perfect.
right? Trillium delivered down the Cape this year, right?
Ooh.
Oh, that was one of the highlights of the quarantine. You know?
And you had to
Other
buy at
than
least a
that-
case, right?
So I originally had to buy a case. They've changed it. But again, they haven't been coming to the Cape as often as they were in the beginning. But in the beginning, we were like, it was like the Soviet Union over here as far as getting a hold of anything, like toilet paper or, chicken, just regular stuff. So good beer was also hard to get a hold of. And then at some point, I think Trillium realized that people weren't driving into Boston to get their beer. They started Trilivery delivering to the local area. And I guess enough people on the Cape, probably our brother-in-law, wrote to them and said, please come to the Cape. And they did. And that was just so fun because you get to order online. You had to get in there, before 9 o'clock and, make some good selections. And so that's been good because that fills up my fridge and I'm the only one drinking it. So that lasted for a while. And then the summer was good because they just kind of keep everything well stocked in the summer. But now I'm kind of like, it's luck of the draw at the package store.
Over the
But
packing.
so you don't have a similar
packing.
thing in Massachusetts where all the breweries, because we've talked before about how New York early on in the pandemic, all the breweries sort of were given, they kind of changed the laws a little bit. So all the breweries could easily ship directly to the consumer. Sounds like that's what Trillium did. The other breweries, not so much, or?
I know
No,
that
I don't
some
think
have,
so.
but not Treehouse, though. Not Treehouse.
Yeah.
Treehouse
Of course.
definitely didn't. And there were some that were delivering local to where they are,
Yeah.
but not around here. And, the local breweries, they're easy enough to go get their beer. So
Sure.
it's not like we've been without beer. But once you kind of got used to having a good variety and that the stuff on the shelves weren't old, it drives me crazy that they get really good stuff and then they put it on a warm shelf, like right under the heating unit or something. And I'm like,
and then it gives breweries a bad name when they do that. So that's where a lot of people like to diss on Lord Hobo because they became shelfies very quickly. They were this up and coming brewery and they were like, oh, great beers, like just delicious. I was chasing all over Massachusetts to find them, get a boom sauce. And they very quickly grew their business, started bigger distribution, and then ended up having 4-month-old IPAs on the shelf. And people buy them and go, what is this? Because the hops fall off, after 4 or 5 months. And so that's very dangerous. You got to be careful when you get big and then you get a bad reputation.
I think they're in the fridge now, though, Huck.
What's that? You got hobos in the fridge?
So, yeah.
No kidding.
That might be a Massachusetts thing.
I haven't had a hobo in a while. I had a Freebird recently.
Ooh.
It's a Freedom Ale. I don't know. It's kind of like it's kind of just a simple ale. I don't even know what category it was. The Freebird. Yeah, it was golden ale. It was a golden ale. Yeah, it was not bad.
Yeah, like Coors. I remember that was a thing growing up that Coors was like this foreign import because they didn't have East Coast distribution because of the unions.
Yeah.
And so whenever our Michelob, our dad, would go out to the West Coast, he was always really excited to get a Coors.
And then at some point it shifted into Coors was not, if you were if you were liberal, there was some kind of, I know it was partly an anti-gay thing or something else where like Coors it's not cool to drink Coors.
Yeah,
there was a big boycott from Coors at some point because of some of their policies.
Yeah, well, I remember in the early days, like 70s and 80s, it had to do with they were non-union, like that was they didn't believe in the union, which you can imagine the Teamsters who distribute all the beer.
Yeah, it was probably initially it was more that than the gay thing, but then the other one became so big that they wound up hiring Mary Cheney, Dick Cheney's daughter, to be part of their lead up their let's get better about that task
Yeah.
force.
She's her name has been spoken quite a few times today.
Well,
Has it on the impeachment hearings?
No, that's Liz Cheney. That's the other.
Oh, yeah,
the other
yeah,
daughter.
Liz.
Oh,
Yeah.
Liz's name has been invoked several times today.
Yes,
many times because she
more
is
than
one of the
several,
10.
yeah.
She is one of the. Oh, we should tell anyone who's listening to this one. This is it's interesting. We thought it might come up last week. It didn't last week when we recorded this. We were recording it while all the riots were going on.
Yeah, we recorded on
this week-
Insurrection Day last week.
This week we're recording on Impeachment Day.
Yeah,
Both of which are good days to have a drink. Let's be clear.
Very much so. But yeah, but yes, you're right. Liz Cheney is very important today because she is one of the 10 Republicans who voted in favor of impeachment.
yeah.
And I'm sorry, Captain. What were the basic statements we put out at the beginning of this podcast?
Oh well, we don't actually. I'm not going to say his name anymore.
Okay.
Fuck T. Asterisk.
I try not to say it.
Asterisk.
I try not to
Black
hear
Lives
it.
Matter and wear your fucking mask.
Wear
Those
your,
are the three
wear your
things.
mask. Yeah.
Yeah, because in a week we won't even have to worry about saying his name anymore, and just that orange cloud.
Although we
We're
can still drink orange things, right? We can still drink hazy
And,
IPA.
yeah,
that are
I
bright
actually-
orange. Okay, thank you.
I've always, I have to admit, I really like Cheetos, so it always bothered me a little when people compared him to a Cheeto, called him a Cheeto, because don't ruin Cheetos for me. He's ruined so many other things. Don't ruin Cheetos for me.
When I was a kid, that was my color. I had a bright neon orange thin tie. Remember the 80s ties, the thin ties? And I had orange Chuck Taylors. I was really
Those are-
into the color orange, like bright orange.
Chuck Taylor's, that's the sneakers,
Yeah.
right? It's
The
like
sneakers,
basketball
yeah.
sneakers.
Yes.
Yeah, you were like, you own that color. You were like, that's my favorite color.
Yeah, I did.
So
That was,
that could be the rest of us
Attracts.
couldn't pick orange as our favorite color.
and of course, I've played. I've played the president on several of comedy videos.
I'm glad that didn't become a career for you. I know you were
No,
worried it
and
might.
as a matter of fact, I was doing it right up until the last time I did it was right before the election. We did a parody of
Yeah.
Hamilton, the Hillary Rodham Clinton. That's the Key of Awesome. If you guys have never seen it, and after that, I never did it again. And I would see sometimes breakdowns and be like, "We need a Trump impersonator in Florida. We'll pay you this much." I'm like, I just don't think that's what I want to do with my life. I just didn't pursue
I
it.
think that was wise.
Because there was a point where I was like, I could get a really good wig. I could get the correct suit, maybe even like a little padding in it. I could really just be that character. And I just said, no, I can't do that. So I didn't pursue it.
Good choices you made there, Huck. Good choices.
Check out the lacing on
Yeah.
this pony glass, huh? Look at
I
that.
was
That's
noticing
great.
that earlier. That's just so beautiful.
That's the example of a clean glass, folks.
Huck, how do you keep your glasses so clean?
I hand wash them.
Okay.
Did we just talk about this?
We might have.
Oh, I've listened to all the podcasts except for the most recent one.
Oh, okay, well, that was the best one.
Like it. Ugh.
You
I-
were
Except for this one.
You were the
Until
second
now.
super fan in a row that we've had because the guest last week also had listened to every episode except the previous one.
So tell us, Red, how are we doing?
I think you're doing pretty good. So that like craft beer, I consider myself like a OG podcast listener. I've been listening to podcasts since 2001, I think is when my first podcast that I listened to. And so you guys are doing a pretty good job. And I was saying, you've got a good blend of characters, and you seem very open to your guests and to things changing. So I think you guys are doing really well.
Right.
Keep up
Well,
the
thanks.
good work.
Since you haven't listened to last week's, you may not have noticed. I know you like the way it changes and shifts around. A staple of podcasts is having recurring segments. And actually, looking at Huck with that second beer has gotten me pretty thirsty. So I think it's time for another visit. Second week in a row. I make it sound like we've been doing it for the whole time. Another visit to the Captain's Cellar.
All right, we're going to debut the new theme song for the Captain Cellar.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Exciting.
Going to the Captain's Cellar. Come high water or hell, yeah. It's filled with stouts and porters. made with bricks and mortars. Going to the captain's cellar.
That was beautiful.
That was delightful.
Nice job.
In case I ever decide a Captain's Cellar pour is going to be the opening pour, though, I'm going to cut out a very small section of that so we don't find it being thirsty for a long
Let me
time.
re-record it. That's not how I
wonderful
expected it
show.
to sound, but I think it might have been okay.
That's beautiful.
I just wrote
yeah,
that
last week-
a couple hours ago. So
Last week we were talking about how I have a lot of beers that since we haven't had a lot of gatherings, every time I get a special beer, I save it for like the beer venture gatherings we used to have that we haven't been able to have for a while. And so now I think if there's a second pour every week, it's going to be one from that stash. This is one I've been cellaring since October. Okay. And if you listen to the show where I drank the Anarchist Jurisdiction beer from Big Alice, by the way, I still got to pick up their Curtain Up. I know you got one of those recently, Huck. Really looking forward to having that one. But we talked about the Anarchist Jurisdiction, and I couldn't remember the names of all of the Anarchist jurisdictions, and I left out Seattle, and I promised to make it up to them, and I finally am with this Standard Brewing Enemy of the Moon.
Oh, can art on point as well.
It's been in my cellar since October. Cellar meaning my mini fridge. It is I believe it's an 11%.
Not made of brick and mortar, no.
I would hope.
No, it's not. It is a blend of barrel-aged imperial stouts. It's what's interesting. I was looking it up today, and apparently they had a series before that, like 6 months before that, called Enemy of the Sun, which was sort of a peated stout. This one was aged in Elijah Craig bourbon barrels. That's so here we are.
You said it was a blend of two stouts?
Well, that's what it says. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I didn't see that when I looked up the thing before, but yeah, it is a blend of barrel-aged imperial stouts. But yeah, apparently they come from the Elijah Craig bourbon barrels, and here we are.
Right.
Let's take a look.
Huck.
Oh, it's literally pouring like molasses. It's beautiful. This may be one of the. I know I say this every week, but this truly may be one of the darkest beers. Like, it just feels like it's absorbing.
Really that way for sure.
It really just looks like it's absorbing all of the light that is coming out of.
And
your
it
screen.
does have a nice little head there, but it's a subtle head, but it's existent. Not. I remember you were saying the one I had last week had none at all. This one has definitely. It's there, but yeah,
absolutely present. And what's the percentage on this one, Captain?
I believe it's 11.
Big day for the Captain.
Air Wander wants to know how sauced you're going to be in 5 minutes.
I have to check. I feel like it's my duty.
And you're not driving anywhere, right?
That's okay. We're at that point.
It's a full 11%. So
we're at that point in the show where we might be okay. We might make it.
Blessed.
Yeah, well, I'll make it to. This is actually. We've been recording this on Wednesday nights, and I've got to make sure I phrase this properly so I don't make my family annoyed. I often wind up going to a family call immediately after this one, and it's I'm sure they enjoy me more after a couple of beers. I had to phrase that so it's not the other way around. I enjoy them all the time, but yeah,
they may be listening, although they wouldn't know who you were.
At least one of them will be, and he'll appreciate that. My father listens to pretty much every one.
Oh, very good.
How's
in fact,
the flavor on that?
Flavor is really nice. It's
What are you getting?
Yeah, this is a nice leisurely sipping beer. The boozy quality is very strong in it. Not overwhelmingly so, but it's there. Any
horse blanket?
If you told me this was a 14%er, I'd probably believe you then too. It's powerful.
All right.
Definitely taste that bourbon there.
Looks good.
Well, as we're moving into weeks and beers, I do want to do a quick shout out to a brewery that is because a lot of it's getting to be winter time, and that means it is a very hard time, at least in Gotham, and I'm sure also out on the Cape, for people to gather and get a beer. So I want to give a quick shout out to our friends at Circuit Brewing Company. I had one of their beers a few weeks ago. Buddies of mine, very excited about them. Small little place in downtown Brooklyn that have just pioneered The Window, which is a nice little pickup spot where you can get some beers that they're continuing to brew in there. And they're going to have they've got 3 cans that are going to be available at The Window. They've got the Quality Control Pilsner, the Witch Doctor Sour, and the Death or Glory IPA. So I know the captain mentioned in the previous year to take care of our nearby neighbors. And so I wanted to make sure that I throw a little love out to my friends at Circa, who've been taking good care of me during this indoor times. So swing by if you want a beer.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's great. In light of the numbers going up and the weather and the respect for the neighbors, I think all combined, Single Cut has also recently stopped doing their outdoor thing. I think there were always more, especially in the winter, more about the deliveries, which they seem to be doing a lot of them really well. But I'm glad it's. I see a lot of stuff going on here where people are just saying, okay, they're only paying attention to what they have to do, and I'm always impressed with someone who's doing something that, we're technically we're allowed to do this, but we're not gonna anymore.
Yeah.
This is legal, but in the spirit of trying to make everything better, let's maybe go a little further, and so I appreciate that.
Yeah,
but,
me too. Yeah, Devil's Purse actually. I was gonna go there today, and I saw they changed their hours, so I got some Devil's Purse at the Packy, but I noticed that they had reverted back to Windows service only, and they had set up kind of this. It's interesting to see everybody's creativity during this time period, but they set up a window that looks kind of like an ice cream, shop type of a window.
Yeah,
slide the window.
Yeah, at first it was funny because back in April they just pushed like a couch up against they have a big bay door because it's in it's in one of those like
a garage warehouse type.
Yeah,
space.
garage warehouse type thing. So they just put like a couch or something up against the door. They kind of barricaded it up, but now they seem to have actually built something that's got a window, and they sit there on the couch watching TV and stuff, and then if anybody shows up, they give them a beer. So but I also appreciate that. I appreciate anybody who is doing anything to help us get to the other side of this, because
I remember being very excited when Devil's Purse opened. It must have been 5 years ago, maybe.
It feels like that,
maybe
yeah.
Actually less.
It says it on the can.
But the place, there was a brewery that was literally like within a mile of my parents' house. I was like, oh, it's so exciting! And when we went there, and I had a flight, and they had a really good stout and a good IPA, and I was like, yay! I was so happy, because if we went in there and tried the different beers and was like, oh, that would have been really disappointing. Finally get this brewery right down the street. So they're a good place. They're a good place. We like them.
Yeah, it's so nice to have. It's just a really nice thing. And we also, I mentioned Ring Brothers is a store that is nearby too, and they cater to trying to have as many Portside Liquors is the name.
Yeah, they have a great selection
they've got an excellent selection, and then Moonshine Liquors is sort of my go-to, and the only reason I'm mentioning this, even though you guys are in mostly New York podcast, is that on one of the Facebook groups I belong to, it's a New England beer group. People are
I think the
saying,
captain's in that group too.
I'm going to the Cape.
I was for a while, yeah.
What do you guys recommend on the Cape? And I always say the same thing, and I'm like, go to the Devil's Purse Brewery, go to Ring Brothers, get some chowder and beer. Go to Moonshine, so I figure I'll say it here. We're going to be documented.
Yeah, there's the group is like the New England. There's the New England Beer Exchange of the Facebook group, and people will bring that up all the time. They'll be like, "I'm going to the Cape. What's good on the Cape?" Be like, "This knockabout, Barnstable, Devil's Purse.
Right.
There you go."
Yeah, so I'm like, I'm just going to stay right in Dennis. Recommend.
I think one of the best reasons for us to have I mean, there are a few good reasons to have lots of regional people on here. One, because, well, I mean, including yourself, we have a lot of listeners in Massachusetts. And also for those people who aren't, there will be a time when we can travel and go places again. And every time we have you, this week we had my childhood friend from Dayton, Ohio, the week before. We had the Tripel Man from Philadelphia. Every time we have someone from some of those places, like, okay, this is when I'm allowed to go out in the world and be places and experience everybody. These are things that can go on the wish list. This gives us something to shoot for, which is fantastic.
Well, the nice thing about the Cape this summer that was good. It was a little stressful to have what felt like crowds being here, but a lot of what happens here is outdoor focus. So people were, and it's also driving distance from Philadelphia, New York, Boston, Providence. So you don't have to get on an airplane. You don't have to go to an airport. So it was good that people were able to come to the Cape, and it like just about kept our local economy going because we rely on the summertime business so much. So it was a little bit stressful to see people having a house party or something like that. But for the most part, people are outdoors and sitting at picnic tables to eat their food and because it's Massachusetts, we were pretty strict about wearing masks indoors and you couldn't go into any of the stores or restaurants without a mask on. So it actually was kind of nice that people were able to come here. So I was happy to promote the local businesses. But New York, my daughter goes to college in the Bronx, and I've been going to New York fairly often, and it's just pull into the parking lot. She gets in the car and we turn around and leave. Like, it's really weird to be going to New York and not see all my relatives, including Huck,
Yeah, that was probably one of the perks when she went there. Well, I get to go to New York now.
Yeah, exactly. But she made, one of the good things, she's a freshman, and one of the good things about her being a freshman is she wasn't relating her experience to the previous year. So she was able to still, she wasn't here at our house, so where she had been fairly, stuck in her bedroom for months on end. So she was somewhere different. She made some new friends, and she got to enjoy the city despite a lot of things being closed. She just likes just wandering around the city. She loves it. So in a way, it works out okay for her. I think if she was a sophomore, it might have been harder because then she'd come back and say, it's not the same as it was last year. But because she was a freshman, it was still all new and interesting to her. So she, whenever I hear anybody, disparaging what New York was or anything like that, I'm like, well, my daughter had her first year living there and she loved it. So
most of the people who disparage New York have really never been here.
Or they definitely haven't drunk our beers. Let's be real.
Or they're afraid of it. Why they left? They're probably justifying why they left. And which I think is silly because I used to live in New York and I left, but I think you can still love New York and leave. You don't have to pick. You can love both.
I agree. I know we're going a little bit long now, but I don't know. Good. Okay, good. So I saw you grabbing the uke. I thought maybe you were getting ready to. I mean, we can. I want a couple things I want to talk about. Please. My weekend beer. I don't know if you guys have stuff you want to talk about your weekend beer. First of all, I'll
start.
Yes, go ahead.
The week in beer. The week in beer. The week.
I wish I had my shaker egg. That would be a good song to do the shaker egg too.
I just wrote that an hour ago.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I talked about how when I went to Astoria Beer and Cheese on Saturday and got the first beer, the Free Thought, which is couldn't recommend more. They were those guys actually apparently started out at this farm to table restaurant in Brooklyn, or maybe it was called Blue Hill, which I'm not really familiar with, but it looks like Beer Wonder is, maybe.
I've heard the name. I don't know much about it.
Yeah, I think they were like brewing stuff for them and then just sort of expanded, but they still don't have their own space. And so they've been moving around, and but they're trying to keep that same basic aesthetic, which is really cool. I also got a beer that I haven't tried yet, but it was one of those things. It's like an $11 can. And so I'm like, okay, I'll get one. And I still haven't tried it, but I went back and I got a second one today. It's an Omnipollo. I can't even read my handwriting here. It's a Morelic. It's a stout. It's a imperial stout. The name of it is just Morelic. I had to look it up because it's not even on the can. It's like some sort of native blanket for something. But the full name of it is Morelic Mansplanation Stout.
Okay.
They call it that because the flavor is so complex. It's impossible for a man to drink some of it and not immediately begin mansplaining the beer. So perhaps that will something we'll have on in the future. I also, this is the other thing I just thought was great. I don't think I said this before. The Free Thoughts, their not mission statement, whatever, is eclectic beer crafted with care.
Oh,
I think that's cool.
Okay.
But yeah, so I got those great beers. Oh, I also did mention, wanted to mention again, we talked about them, but it always bears repeating. The Curtain Up project is still in full swing. Huck got the Big Alice one. They're available from Big Alice. They're available from Gun Hill. I know some upstate breweries are doing it, and before long, we're just going to be swimming in Curtain Up beer. And every Curtain Up beer you get, some of that money goes to a local performing arts organization. So keep an eye out for Curtain Up beer.
Is there a website where there's got a map? I've seen with some of those other shared recipe ones, you can look on a map and see who's doing it. Do you know if there's?
I don't know if there's a map, but there's a list of right now. It's not too hard to find them because they've only got about 60 breweries. At least the last time I looked, I did see one of them put something on Instagram, said they just signed up like five more breweries for it. So that's I don't know, but the last list I saw was 58, and I don't know how close to your neck of the woods there. But I know there's a lot of New York, New Jersey. Like some of the ones I've seen that we haven't been able to get here seems to be mostly from upstate places that only have crowlers, growlers or crowlers or.
They're on draft. Yeah.
So yeah, so I think, in fact, today I had various technical issues today. Otherwise, I think I would have gotten on a bike and gone up to Big Alice, but I just might do that tomorrow. And the other highlight of my weekend beer was on Saturday when Huck drove to my front door, and I got to go downstairs and we exchanged a few beers, including the one he had for his first beer tonight.
Yes.
And I got to taste his very best. Was it
best lager?
It was best lager. Okay, I knew it was because it's a black lager. Okay.
Best? Did you say best?
Well, it was his favorite. Oh, do you get on him for that also? No, it was,
how can it be the best?
It was his best New York black lager of the year, and it was really good. He also brought over an Evil Twin, Even More Hydra, and anything that it says Evil Twin Even More, I'm have a hard time resisting it. I might try and save it for a show, but I can't promise anything because Evil Twin Even More, their entire Even More series. To misquote Jerry Maguire, you had me at even more.
You had me at even more. And interesting enough, after visiting the captain, Cider Girl, we got back in the car and we're just parked out front of his house, and we look and she goes, "Is that a fire?" And I'm like, "Red will get this." I'm like, yeah, I think there's a fire starting in that driveway." So I get out of the car, and it is this newspapers and leaves are all on fire, like a cigarette butt had burned them. So I'm in somebody's front yard stomping this fire out.
Oh my goodness!
And I texted the captain. I said, "By the way, I just saved your neighborhood."
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
We're burning down. But Red knows this. We have to do these things. And we're like, okay. And that's the first thing that Cider Girl looked at. She's like, "Oh, I have to go put out this fire, don't I?"
Yeah. It's like, is there anyone? I guess it's going to be me.
It does. We're going to do it. And we did. It was fine. I tried to knock on the door and tell the people that their yard was on fire, but no one answered.
It's above and beyond for you, Huck. That's above and beyond for sure.
But yeah,
That's what we do.
gave you those
What we
beers
do with
again.
the beer, we're beer Avengers, huh?
Saving the world
I'm
one
proud of
beverage
you.
at a time. And fire, apparently. I didn't realize that was in our arsenal, but I'm happy to.
So
And,
how
and of
about
course,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, of course, I also gave you some of my balls.
oh yes, and I got the nice chocolate bourbon balls, which are excellent. Thank you for giving me
Hand
that.
rolled
Ooh.
every year.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna have one right after this.
Oh my God.
There was one point where this year I almost didn't make them because I knew I was going to be able to go to parties and distribute them. I was like, I will make them, and I will get. And there, at some point or another, I will figure out how to give them all away, the ones I don't eat anyway. And so I actually, since I thought you
Send
were
me my
getting some
address.
to give to Beer Wonder, I actually have I already have Beer Wonder's portion set aside in my freezer right now.
I'm looking forward to it.
Any other weekend beer stuff, Beer Vengers?
Well, I kind of told you about my weekend beer that I got lucky after not being lucky for a couple of weeks. So I feel like the good luck must have come from being asked to be on the podcast. So thanks. I get the beer.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
great to have
wonderful to
Irish
have you.
Red with us today.
For
Yeah,
sure.
this is great. The time flew by. I can't believe it's been this long. It's been you've been a wonderful guest, and come back anytime.
Yeah, next time I come on, I want to talk about can art.
Yes. Oh,
Oh, we have to talk
yes.
about can art. Yeah.
you have to talk
You
about
know that
Can art episode.
we should invite you to our next production meeting because that's most of what we do is like, what can we talk about now? Haven't we talked about everything yet? So we're constantly coming up with like topics to keep us interesting. So
I'm gonna
that'll
get the
be
brother-in-law on. I don't know what his beer Avenger name is, but and maybe that's it.
Our brother-in-law,
Maybe that's his beer Avenger name. The brother-in-law.
the brother-in-law. He might be
Hazy.
too much trouble. He
Let's
might be
call
too
him
much
Hazy.
trouble. He gets on the air and like, no, this is terrible. Pour it out.
Yeah, well, he'll have 11 other beers to taste.
Although he doesn't pour it
It'll
out.
be-
He'll say it's terrible, but he'll finish it.
he's like the Bill Burr character on that SNL sketch we were talking about,
Right.
drinking his pumpkin beer. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Beer Vengers that are here. Thanks, Beer Vengers who are listening. And because if you're listening, I don't know if you have a name yet, but also real quick, sorry, no, we want to do a fan show coming up. We have a lot of
Yeah.
ideas, and I want to thank. Oh, I almost forgot. Want to thank the people at the Acquired Tastings podcast. They're friends of a friend or family of a friend of Belgian babes, and they gave us a wonderful gift of a wonderful 4-pack of beer from Arkansas that we hope to share with you on a future show. We really appreciate that, and I'm trying to figure out what I can give you in return because it's just wonderful to have fans. So if there are fans out there, reach out to us on social media. Reach out to us at thebeervengers@gmail.com where you see us and you can rate us, subscribe.
We're on
rank us.
Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. But are we on TikTok?
No, but I believe that Hophead Huck might be on TikTok.
I'm on TikTok. Irish Red is on TikTok.
You know what? We're on YouTube.
Right.
I don't think we've mentioned YouTube before.
Oh, right. No,
Somebody told me that if you have to like work and pretend like you're not working, it's a lot harder to watch us on the other things. But YouTube is somehow gets under the wire. So
Are you going to start putting these
Don't
up
short
on
shrift
YouTube?
YouTube.
Are you going to put
what's that?
Are you going to start putting the visual up on YouTube at some point? Is that in the plans?
No, I don't think we are. We'll put some more stills on there. We put a little trailer there with us, but no, it's just a still image where you can listen to the audio podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do a special one at some point, but we have all kinds of ideas, which is part of why we want to get feedback from you, our fans. What you like, what you don't like, what you like to see, what you would like to hear read on the air, because there's not many of you, and anything you write to us, we will read on the air.
We
We
will.
will make you immortal that
Very
way.
true.
So please do that. Probably, I mean, prove me wrong. Send us so much stuff, but if anything you send us, we will read on the air. We're not going to be like Ron Burgundy looking at the teleprompter saying, Seattle, San Diego, go fuck yourself. But I think most things you send, we should be able to read. Thanks again, everyone, and
Thanks for having me.
You're ready to play. You're ready to play us out, and then I sucked us back in. I think we're ready to say goodbye.
We don't want to leave any stones unturned.
We don't because there might be
we'll
shit
see you
on
guys next week.
See you then.
Thanks again, Irish
I'll
Red.
be listening.
Well, we're the beer Vengers, beer Vengers, beer Vengers.
We are the Beer Avengers.
We're the Beer Bench. I wasn't ready.
Okay, I think that'll work.